What's going on, YouTube? Jack Armstrong, Jack Daddy Customs, coming at you today with another DIY project. Stay tuned, you don't want to miss how you can make this awesome Marsh seat. Let's talk about Marsh seat. So this is a standard Marsh seat. So this is my buddy's and it works just fine. If you'll notice, the bottom has these two little pins like this that are just kind of slip out, and it sits in the mud like this. And then of course you got your seat that pops up and it'll sit like this. You sit on it, stays in the mud, keeps you from going in the mud. Pretty good. Not phenomenally, but it works, okay? And it's not heavy. It's good. But there's always a way to make something better. So, today I want to show you how I did that. I can't get that back down. This is what I built. Now, a few things that is an improvement on that. Number one, you can have your boat seat in the boat and not have to have it on here. So, you can throw this in the hatch in the boat. You can throw it on the side of the boat. I usually have a bungee wrapped around these to keep them from flapping. But it's all aluminum. It's sweet. I'm going to show you how I built this one. I'm going to show you how to make your own. But you can put any boat seat in there. So you just, like I got a Millennium boat seat that is stinking awesome. And you can put it in there and you've got a Marsh seat that swivels, which is always helpful in the marsh, and a Marsh seat that stays on top of the marsh, which is essential. Now another benefit to this over the standard Marsh seat that you buy from like Max or whatever is this has 3 legs. 2 legs is not always sufficient because you need stability more than just one way, right? So when you've got 3, it allows you to have stability this way, and this way. So basically you got 360 degrees of stability. If you've only got 2, you've only got one way that it's strong. It's not strong front and back. So like what I found is when I lean up real fast, then it might lean back the other way. Or if sometimes I'll put like the 2 pegs in line with me so that it won't lean front and back, but then you get a little wobbly left and right. So you make your own, you can put 3, which works out even better. Follow along, make sure you know how to build these. This was my first one. I bought a pedestal aluminum platform like for a boat seat, and then welded it in there, cut it out smaller so it's not huge. But this right here is like 30 bucks. So I found a way to do away with that. Remember, this was my first one. I'm gonna show you how to build one a lot cheaper than this. All this is scrap metal, but you can buy it for super cheap. This is just aluminum conduit. I found some extrusions at the scrap yard for this. You could use square tubing, and then this is a piece of this conduit cut in half or in thirds, and then make like little cups that we're gonna weld on the bottom. And then you've got stainless steel hardware, of course, is another expense. But this goes down in the mud really nicely. These flop out, kind of like a push pole in the marsh, and sit like that on the swamp grass or whatever, mud. I tried it in my pond the other day and it works good. But I'll show it to you in the marsh as well, just so you believe me. But that's it. I'm going to show you how to do this for super cheap, super easy, as long as you've got a way to weld aluminum. Now you can build this out of steel, but of course, a lot of the marsh is salt water, so salt water is going to just ruin one out of steel. So I made it out of aluminum to last for a long time. I'm going to paint this one up. Like I said, this was the first ones that I built. I'll show you one that's all camoed up and stuff like that in a minute. But, let's build it. Okay, so the way to eliminate having to buy a pedestal and then welding it on there is to get a piece of aluminum pipe that this will fit in. Just like that. Now you want it pretty solid. It doesn't have to be like rock solid, but you want it pretty solid. So this right here is a piece of 3/4 inch, I think, aluminum conduit. And if you just put it in there, see, it's way too loose. So what I did is I cut a slit in it, and then I beat it together with a sledgehammer. You can push it together, whatever, and then weld your slit back up. So basically you're making the diameter of that pipe a little bit smaller, and then it will fit inside of this 1-inch conduit. Good and tight, that's what you want. So then we're gonna weld up around here. So all right, the second step is going to be welding our legs to our cups. And we're gonna come back and clean all this up later. But basically, you just wanna put them on top of your cup, weld up down each side, and that's gonna be your leg. Now, you could use flat bar here, you could use tubing for this. I just happen to find some good extrusions that have like grooves or ribs on the inside, so it should be stronger. But you could just use square tubing as long as it'll fit inside the piece that you're making for the hinge. My legs are 8.5 inches long. My cups from one side to the back, 5.5 inches long. So let's get these welded up. All right, next we're gonna start working on our center tube. Now we cut an angle on one side. That's gonna allow us to be able to shove that down into the Marsh, and that bottom piece is what's gonna hold it up. When you stand, it's not gonna just fall over, right? So that bottom piece is gonna be like your stability this way. All the legs are gonna be your stability that way. So make sure you leave enough down here. We got about 16 to 18 inches down here. We've got 14 inches from this side of our mark. And what we do is that mark is gonna be the top of where we're gonna put our legs. As we're dealing with our center pipe, we're also gonna take the piece that we made. This is the piece that we made for our seat mount, our pedestal mount, and we're gonna put it in there. Now, this pipe is too big to fit this pipe in there nice and smooth. So what it is, I cut a groove on the back, and then we're gonna hold it up against that groove. That way we get a nice bead all the way down the back side to hold that nice and strong. And then on the top, we're just gonna have to fill in that gap with some thick welds and then grind it nice and smooth so it'll look good. But if you found a tube that was smaller, then that would be great. Like I said, this is scrap that I had laying around, scrap that I found at the scrap yard and paid minimal price for. So yeah, just whatever you got, that's what you gotta use. All right, the easy way to build your brackets that hold your legs, you gotta take your piece of metal. Remember, that's wide enough for the piece that's fitting in there, the leg, to swing. These pieces are 3.5 inches long, 2 inches tall. Square pieces, I cut them out of 2-inch flat bar. So it's 2 inches long. Take that and weld it on one side first. So get it nice and square. I like to bring mine out about 1/8 of an inch past the front, and then that way I can weld it on this side too, because this side is going to be a tougher weld trying to get it, you know, in there. Basically what you want to do, you don't want to weld the bottom because you want it to be nice and square. So unless you got a way to cut a square out of your weld once it's in there, don't do it. Just weld the top, weld it good, and so you'll weld one side first, like that. That's what I'm going to do. And then once I get that side welded, I'm going to match it up with this side, and I'm going to build all my brackets the same, like that. Always, you know, it's not a bad idea to put one of these leg pieces that you've made to slide it in there to make sure that you've got enough clearance for this thing to swing. So let's get these built. Now when you're putting these mounts on for your legs, make sure you just put them like evenly spaced around it so you have that tripod feel. You don't want like two of them real close to one another and then you have one area of stability that's not good. You want to just space them out evenly around the pipe. One other part of the leg is a cap for the bottom. If you just leave it open, you can do that, but every time you shove it in there, it's going to be shoving mud up this thing. So we're going to cap that off. If you get water in it, you can always dump it out the top side. But we're going to cap that off to keep it nice and clean on the inside. Another little part that we're going to do on this leg before we get finished is we're going to put some little holders. We're going to weld, this is just like 1/4 inch bar, or 1/4 inch round bar or whatever. And we're going to weld one on there and then one below the legs. And that way we can just put like a little strap or some type of string, something to carry it with, you know, so we can throw it over our shoulder if we're gonna walk in, whatever. We can just always have something to tie it to our pack, blind bag, whatever. So we're gonna put some little mounting points on there as well, and it just makes it cooler. The next step, drill some holes. Now I'm using 5/16 inch bolts, so of course I'm using a 5/16 inch bit. And you want to put about 1 inch of space between your leg and your center post so that they don't bind. If you don't put any gap, you're not going to be able to fold, so you've got to have some gap right there. And another tip would be just kind of do one, make sure it folds how you like it, and then you can go ahead and do all the rest of them to match. But if you do one and it doesn't work right, it's easier just to fix one than to fix 3. So just go ahead and do one to start, and then make them all match. All right, you take your bolt, put it through the holes you just drilled. You see, can't go up because you got your stop right there and just where you put your bolt, but it can go down. All right, up, down. So, in the marsh, sitting down, can't go through the mud. When you're in the boat right there, maybe take a bungee or something and tie them down. We're gonna do all of them the same way, and then we're gonna take the flap disc, clean it all up, and maybe put a little coat of spray paint on it. I got some camo vinyl that I might wrap the top with just to make it look kind of cool. I don't know. The last step is to put these legs on. So we're just gonna use some bolts. I got 5/16 by 1.5 inch with lock washers or lock nuts. And we're gonna put those on each of those legs, and then it'll be ready to go to the swamp. One season into using these, and we've had a ton of people in the marsh ask us where we got them. I'm probably not going to be in the market for selling these things anytime real soon, but I wanted to show you how you could do it so you can make your own. I'm telling you, you won't be disappointed if you spend a little time and you make this happen. Again, it's the off season. Spend some time getting ready for the season, so when it comes, all you got to do is throw this puppy in the boat and go to the marsh. You know, just be ready to go. I'm fired up just talking about it. Check it out in the marsh though, and we'll see you next time.